The story behind this car is crazy. It was sold 3 times and then confiscated. I used to own a car dealership in Grand Rapids, Michigan, and I had this lady who called me. I told this story in a live one time, and it's a pretty good story. It's quite interesting. I had this lady call me. We had what was called auto pawn. So what we would do is we would take people's cars and we'd go, okay, they'd bring us a car, they'd bring us the title, and they'd go, I need to borrow $1,000. And I swear to God, we did this all the time. This is going to sound crazy to you guys, that anybody would ever do this stuff. Ever in the right mind, do anything similar to this. They bring me a car, and this lady brought me a 1969 Catalina. Now, you're probably like, 1969 Catalina, I remember that thing. They were big old boats of cars. And yeah, they certainly were. But this car was really cool. Hopefully I have a picture I can put in overlay this so you could see how cool this car was. It was a 2-door, no post. So that meant that it didn't even have a post behind the driver's door and the passenger door. So you would get in, you'd fold the seat, this big ass seat, you'd fold it forward, you'd be in the back seat. Huge car. Well, anyway, so the lady calls me, and what I can't remember all the exact details, so I might be semi incorrect about some of them. In April, and says, I need to pawn my car. And I said, how much do you want? She says, I want $2,000 for it. $2,000 to pawn. And I said, okay, in 30 days, you're going to owe us $3,000. If you don't pay the car off, you can bring us $1,000, but you're going to owe $3,000 the next month. All right? Then I asked the lady if she had the title, and she said, I do, but it's in my husband's name. And I'm like, well, you'll have to bring your husband with you. And she said, well, I can't bring my husband because he's in prison. And I'm like, oh, okay. And you could tell old girl was a little ghetto, whatever. So then I forgot about it. So the month of June rolls around that same year. I've talked to hundreds of people since then, people on YouTube like you, people like her, dozens and dozens of people. Well, she shows up with this car, and I remembered part of the story. I remembered that she had called me a couple times asking me about loaning her money on this car, but I didn't remember the part that her husband was in prison. So she shows up with the car, and she's got a title, and the title's in her name. And I asked her for the title. I think I said something to her like, I thought I told you couldn't pawn it because it wasn't in your husband's name, or something like that. Or maybe I probably said, you got the title, is it in your name? And she said yes. I don't remember all of that. It didn't really matter anyways, because in the state of Michigan, you just need a title in your name to buy it. I buy the car from her. Well, July comes up. She comes down to the dealership and she pays the $1,000. Said, I have to pick up my car next month. I've got a lot of stuff going on. So now I've got $1,000 into a car, and this lady owes me $3,000. And I've got the car, I've got the title, and I know the car is worth a lot more than $3,000. I don't know how much it's worth, but I know it's worth a considerable amount more than what I've got into it. So I'm not overly concerned about how or when she comes and gets it. And we just put it in a fenced-in area and keep it out there. Well, August comes around. The lady comes and gives me another $1,000. Oh, I don't have the money, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, no problem. Now I've got $0 into this car. which is really a sweet car. You know, I know it's a big old boat of a car, but it's really in good condition. And, you know, it's worth some money. So then September comes around. She calls me, hey, I'm in Puerto Rico. I can't get there to pay for my car, but I'm mailing you a certified check today. I'm gonna, you know, I don't remember, she said she's gonna pay it off or what, you know. And she might have even made 3 payments on it. I don't remember exactly. All I remember is what happened at the end. She says, I'm doing that. Well, I don't hold my breath for anybody. Even when they're buying parts for me, I'm not holding my breath that you guys are going to get back to me anytime soon. I had a guy just buy parts for me a couple weeks ago that I talked to for the last year and a half. So, you know, don't hold your breath for people when they say they're going to, you know, whatever it is they say they're going to do, because they generally don't do it. But I didn't get a check, and I get another phone call from her, and she's like, yeah, and I'm like, well, it's no big deal. It's just sitting out there in the back, and, you know, it's waiting on you to come get it or whatever the case is. And it's not going anywhere, I told her, because, you know, I've got $2,000 of her money, and she owes me $3,000 still. And I've gotten back all the money that I gave her. So, you know, I've got to have a little bit of a heart. And, you know, and I'm thinking to myself, well, I don't want to keep it over the winter, but, you know, it's not hurting anything back there, and I'm made whole. So I decide I'm just going to hold it, and we'll see what happens. See if this check comes up. See if this check comes. If she, you know, she's full of crap. I really don't know at this point, even though I'm getting a little bit of the ghetto runaround. And not too super happy with it. But I figured the check wasn't in the mail. I knew she was full of shit, but I didn't really care. So, hear anything from the lady. So I decide, well, it's October. It's like October 15th or something like that. And I decide, you know what? I'm going to sell this car. I don't want it sitting out here all winter. It's a nice car. I don't want it to sit here and rust or anything like that. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to put this car up for sale. Well, I didn't do that. I knew this guy that, you know, he sold classic cars. So I decide that I'm going to take the car over to him. Now, the thing you got to understand about this guy's another dealer, and his name's Troy, and he owns Boondocks Motorsports in Grand Rapids, or he did. I don't know. They might be in Clarkson or something like that. But this story, you know, I probably should give him props and give him a little shout out because he didn't do anything wrong. He was actually non-knowing in this situation, I guess is the way to put it. I say to him, hey, Troy, will you come and take a look at it? I didn't know this guy really all that well. I knew him from the auction. I'd see him there, and he bought motorcycles and all sorts of really cool, or kind of cool stuff, I guess. He seemed kind of like a hip guy, had a nice look to him, and carried himself, you know, kind of like a, I don't know. He didn't look like an asshole like all the other people at the auction. But he was pissed off at me when I was done. Man. Oh, God. And I don't blame him. I mean, I can't. Because he bought the car from me. $6,500. He turns around, puts the car on his website. Neither of us knew it at the time, but the woman that pawned it to me seen it on the website. Now, by this time, her husband's getting out of prison. And they want their car back because they're lying pieces of shit. And if I understood correctly, she called down to Boondocks and said they stole her car. My God, this is turning into a mess. But I didn't know any of this at the moment it happened. I'm sure Troy looked at the title and said, I've got a title. I've got a picture of her ID. This car ain't stolen. Sells it to a guy for like $9,000 or $10,000. Nice, decent payday. Probably didn't have to do anything to it, I don't guess. I mean, I hope he didn't. But he does that, and the police go to the guy's house that bought it from him and take it back. It's freaking insane. Well, the reason that they took it back... So to my understanding, the guy gets out of prison, and then he claims that it's stolen from him. As far as I'm concerned, that's bullshit. That woman sold it to me with her name on the title. And then I look like a jackass in front of Troy, like some kind of thieving asshole. So when the cops go to get it, was because they said it was larceny by conversion. Because you remember how I said the lady didn't have the title in her name? She told me that. Well, she signed her husband's name while he was in prison and turned around, got a title, brought it to me. Then when her husband got out of prison, he claimed that she stole the car. Now, the car's still out there. He didn't have any insurance on it, of course, because they're just fucking assholes. And, yeah, so they went and took it from the last guy. Now, I don't know what happened to the last guy. I can only speculate that he probably lost out. So it was like a hot potato. And you might be thinking to yourself, well, Clay, probably that's why you went and sold it to the guy, because you knew this. I did not know. I had no idea. I don't think like a criminal. I think like a normal human being. How much money can I make, and how can I replicate that? How can I make more money? That's why I do YouTube, other than wanting to help people. Jesus. I never would have thought of this scam, but it was pretty terrific on their part, I guess. It was one of them things. I had never had that happen. But it does remind me of another story that I'll tell another time about larceny by conversion when I bought a car from a guy who stole the car. But Michigan, they don't require anything but a title in the person's name to be able to sell the car. So how was I supposed to know? You know, maybe I'm supposed to remember and not, you know, buy a car that's freaking awesome for a super cheap price. And you might be saying to yourself, well, it was so cheap. No, I'm telling you, people did this auto pawn all the time. They had no problem paying the 50% because at a pawn shop, you get 25% for 15 days. We got 50% for 30 days. No different. And you would still owe the interest on the thing. If you've never pawned something, that's how it works. Well, needless to say, this police officer calls me, and he's telling me this story of where the car is, and he's basically treating me like shit, like I'm a criminal and I should have known this or something. Most of the time, this stuff is whatever, but I didn't know. I didn't even remember this until the police officer started talking to me. And I go, well, the piece of crap was in prison. I don't, you know, what's to think he's not a criminal? Because why would the woman steal his car, sell it to somebody else, and then the police think that that's okay to go back and get it from somebody who bought it lawfully? It's not their fault that this woman did that. It was stupid. But needless to say, Troy looked like the asshole. And Troy wasn't the asshole. If anybody was the asshole, it was the woman who did it. And then the second asshole was the guy who got out of prison. The third asshole was me, but Troy wasn't an asshole. He just bought a nice car for a reasonable price, just like I bought it. And, you know, I didn't lose any money. They didn't do anything to me, but they gave the car back to the guy, and that was the end of that. And I'm almost done with this project, so hope you enjoyed the story. Consider subscribing, clicking the notification, sharing the videos. This is only the second time I've ever done a video like this, but I think it's cool, so share it with people. That's how the thing goes. And if you want to tell me I'm a piece of crap in the comments, remember, if anyone else can do it, you can do it too. Don't be the next to them, be the first of you. God bless, folks. Have the greatest of days.